This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it. But Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Applebee's just cooked up the ultimate option play with their new Ultimate Trio deal. You can choose from 3 of their delicious appetizers and pair them up with 3 sauces for just $14.99. Craft your perfect trio from over 80,000 different combinations in this flavor-packed plate built for one, or to share if you're generous. You could stick with the classic pairings like boneless wings and buffalo sauce, or you could spice things up and try some unexpected combinations like dipping chicken wonton tacos in their honey Dijon mustard. It's time to head to your neighborhood Applebee's or order online today. That's eating good in the neighborhood.
Country's rising star Bailey Zimmerman just announced his biggest tour yet, the 2026 Different Night Same Rodeo Tour, hitting over 30 cities across the U.S. and Canada. He's coming off a sold-out 2025 run, and now he's back with a new album and a massive arena show. The star's sophomore album, Different Night Same Rodeo, is out now, featuring the #1 hit, Backup Plan, with Luke Combs, and fan favorites like Lost, Holy Smokes, and Holding On. Want more? Fans can upgrade with VIP packages that include premium seats, exclusive merch, and access to Bailey's pre-show soundcheck party. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com.
I'd have walked away from baseball and I'd have bought a farm.
Nothing like a farm. Nothing like being around animals. Fix the thing. There's nothing like being in the field by yourself with the vegetables and the corn, the winter wheat. Greenest stuff you ever saw?
You know, my mother told me I ought to be a farmer.
My dad wanted me to be a baseball player.
Well, you're better than anyone I ever had. And you're the best goddamn hitter I ever saw. Suit up.
This is your From Hobbs to the Horse Whisperer leader fan radio network.
Well, pretty good.
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes, 50 seconds past the hour of 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. We welcome you back to a Tuesday production of the Bumper to Bumper program on yet another very summery weekday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro, former Inkster and Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities. Guardsy is the producer of the show and 2-time, of course, state high school tennis champion as well. And we're delighted that you are along for today's, I think, very eclectic ride between now and 6:30 this evening. In fact, we have 3 actually confirmed guests at this point. And that will include Jonny Athletic at the bottom of this hour, Kevin Seifert sometime in the 5, we believe, and at 4:15, Paul Bloom. We'll catch up for the first time in a while with Fox 9 intrepid reporter Paul Bloom. That is at 4:15. But we are owing Robert Redford off the top of the show. I think he's worth it. You know, it's always a tough decision to make where you fit things in and what should take priority, and there's a lot of ways to go on a day like this, toy department, and even in the A section as well. But when you start thinking about the influence in a pop cultural sense that movie directors, actors can have, and that Robert Redford certainly had, and the amount of pleasure that so many people derived from watching him act, watching him direct. Why not start the show with him? News breaking earlier today that Redford has passed away at the age of 89 years old. Here's the press release from Cindy Berger, the chief executive of apparently a publicity firm that the family is using. Robert Redford passed away on September 16, 2025, at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. He will be missed greatly. The family requests privacy. The clip we played was from, I think, one of his most powerful films called The Natural. Angered many of the purists because it changed a lot of things from the book. And I was not as offended by it, but a lot of people were. Nevertheless, a really good piece of movie making. And you heard his voice speaking to his manager as he gets literally out of his hospital bed for one last hurrah as the very flawed, yet very heroic Roy Hobbs. And that particular scene we've played on this show before. It never ceases to give me chills. The Horse Whisperer is a film that doesn't get a lot of attention. It's not getting a lot of attention today when people are saying, well, what are, the body of work for Robert Redford? Okay, I'll admit I like the alliteration, but I also think it's an example of a lot of smaller films that he made that I thought that were in their own way very effective. And I think it's personal, right? For some people, it might be one more than another. I always thought The Horse Whisperer was one of the most underrated films that he ever made. And we'll get into the story of it later if you're unfamiliar with it. Some of you may have seen it. I would highly recommend if you haven't. But it's the breadth. I mean, he had obviously, Guardsy, astonishing good looks, right? Astonishing.
Very handsome.
Good looks. A very handsome man. And you can argue that for the period when he was in his heyday, nobody was better at being a movie star. Not necessarily just an actor, but a movie star. And all that comes with it, which is entertaining people, right? Appeal, sex appeal, charm, magnetism, the whole bit. And yet, what I think he probably prided himself on more was I don't think he ever forgot the importance of being a star and what that constituted. But very few are better about also at the same time giving you often something to think about. In the role, the movies that he was in, some of the roles that he played, some of the stories he was interested in conveying to the big screen. I would still argue that his most influential film, and maybe I'm biased because I am always going to be first and foremost an ink-stained wretch, was a little ditty called All the President's Men.
Hard to argue.
And I think it is hard to argue, right? We've talked about this film many times over the years to various people, including members of the Washington Post. The late, great John Feinstein told us some great stories about Benjamin Bradley, obviously, who's key to that movie, the editor who kind of shepherded Woodward and Bernstein through the Watergate saga. But that film probably had as great an influence as any that he has had. You look at, just name the characters. Sundance Kid, Jeremiah Johnson, Johnny Hooker in The Sting, Hubble Gardner in The Way We Were, Jay Gatsby in The Great Gatsby, Bob Woodward, as I mentioned, in All the President's Men, Norman Sonny Steele in a film called The Electric Horseman with Jane Fonda, Henry Brubaker, another underrated film, prison film, and Roy Hobbs. Some of the characters are mythic in and of themselves, and he's the guy who played those roles. I liked also a quote I saw from somebody who worked with him quite a lot, the late, great Sidney Pollack. This is what Pollack said about the Redford catalog or his style back in 2002. He's a very instinctive, impulsive actor. I don't think there's anything studied or premeditated about the work. He's the opposite of the actor who wants to rehearse and pin things down. That sizes him up, I think, very smartly. And it's a reminder, not everybody's like De Niro, right? Not everybody has that. I think Redford, in his own way, would classify himself as a perfectionist, but it may be a different kind of perfectionist. And a number of critics have pointed out he didn't have necessarily the widest range as an actor, right? More in the lines of movie stars like Gary Cooper, Gregory Peck, Steve McQueen. But as Variety mentioned in its review, as a movie star in his prime, very few could touch him. And we have not yet named, I mean, we're going to be able to name a lot of movies and talk about them. I want to get opinions from the audience on this as well. But I'm here to tell you that we have not even yet named, I think, his greatest achievement in filmmaking. And that was the first time he directed a film. He made a masterpiece called Ordinary People, another film we've talked about for various reasons over the years. A searing, discomforting, at times agonizing motion picture about really the breakup of a family, living in a rich suburb of Chicago, Illinois. It's the first time he directed. Academy Award. A tremendous film. And so it's almost as if you could say in a certain sense, from a Hollywood standpoint, you almost feel like he had it all. He had the looks. He had the conscience. He had the substance, I think. And yet he never, I think, forgot that above all, you got to entertain people. I don't think that's the Hollywood, that's the movie star in him as well. Just a remarkable body of work. And again, speaking of directing, we're going to talk about it in more depth later. I was actually talking about this movie the other day with my daughter because I think I'd like her to see it. And this was before we got any word about Redford. He directed a motion picture, a much smaller film called The Milagro Beanfield War. A honey of an underrated film that had a lot to do with, let's face it, Redford was very much the belief in the I think, of the philosophy that people need to stand up for the quote-unquote little guy against the big corporation, against big corporate interests. He was very liberal politically. That's not going on any kind of a limb to say. That was his point of view. But a lot of that was studied and I guess you could say examined in that film called Milagro Beanfield War. And then there's the funny thing about this too, Guardsy, is there were a bunch of films I hadn't thought about in a long time. So, God, yeah, that's him too.
Yeah, a lot.
That's when you know you've done a lot, man. That's when you know you got a rich catalog that's not just based on, because there's some people who do one film or two really, really well, and they can live off that forever. This guy, his breadth and versatility when it came to stories that he was interested in telling was pretty dramatic. So I'll take opinions from the audience as well. A major, major loss to the movie community and to, I think, for, like I said, for folks still interested in going to the movies, whether now it's more likely to be in their front of their flat screen at home or going to the big screen movie theater as well, because he gave us a lot, man. He gave us an awful lot. Robert Redford, gone. As I said, not young, but gone at the age of 89 years old. We're going to intersperse Redford stuff throughout the show. Guardsy has put together an outstanding array of sound bites that I want us to include at one point or another. There's several more that we need to get to. We need to examine his very close on-screen and off-screen, at times, relationship with Paul Newman. And we'll get to a number of other things as well. So let's get our first pause in now. As I mentioned, Jonny Athletic. John Athletic will join beginning at 3:30. Back with a little more Redford.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Anyone else feeling hungry? Because Applebee's just cooked up the ultimate option play with their new Ultimate Trio deal. You can choose from 3 of their delicious appetizers and pair them up with 3 sauces for just $14.99. Craft your perfect trio from over 80,000 different combinations in this flavor-packed plate built for one, or to share if you're generous. You could stick with the classic pairings like boneless wings and buffalo sauce, mozzarella sticks and marinara, or brew pub pretzels with white cheddar beer cheese. Or you could spice things up and try some unexpected combinations like dipping chicken wonton tacos in their honey Dijon mustard. The choice is yours. The Ultimate Trio is the perfect way to hit all your cravings in one plate and turn appetizers into an entree. It's time to head to your neighborhood Applebee's or order online today. That's eating good in the neighborhood.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control, without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Whether you're watching college football or flipping between games on Sunday, sound quality matters. A Sonos home theater setup, especially the Arc Ultra soundbar, delivers immersive surround sound and deep bass that makes every play, every hit, and every cheer feel larger than life. And when you're on the go, the Sonos Ace headphones are a game changer. Lightweight, crystal clear, and with up to 30 hours of battery life, they're built for everything, from podcasts to post-game analysis. Visit Sonos.com to explore the full lineup.
When we come
in.
Week 3 of Vikings football kicks off this Sunday as the Bengals come to town. Pregame starts at 10. You can catch every touchdown, every sack, every game-changing play right here on the audio home for Minnesota Vikings football, KFAN, and on the go with the free and easy-to-use iHeartRadio app.
Would you make a jump like that? You didn't have to?
I have to, and I'm not gonna.
Well, we got to. Otherwise, we're dead. They're just going to have to go back down the same way they come. Come on.
Just one clear shot, that's all I want.
Come on. We got to.
Up. Get away from me.
Why?
I want to fight him.
They'll kill us.
Maybe.
You want to die?
Do you?
All right. I'll jump first.
No.
Then you jump first.
No, I said.
What's the matter with you?
I can't swim.
Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Rather mythic scene, oft played over the generations. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid And really, you could argue that scene's more about Paul Newman's acting than Redford's, but they're both great, and the chemistry they established in that film is the stuff of Hollywood, is it not? Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. We are owing Robert Redford here early. Jonny Athletic is going to join us in about 10 or 15 minutes. The texts are absolutely pouring in. I feel quite validated with the decision we went with to start the show with Redford and Redford Talk, which will include throughout the day, even as we go in other directions. You're the cat guy notes. Robert Redford also had a significant bad guy role in the Marvel franchise, to which some classic actors might have turned their nose up. Just more to your point about him never losing sight of being a true entertainer. He'd like to tell you, though, it never came at the expense of his higher ideals as well. Lester writes, as good as All the President's Men is, there is one Redford movie I put higher. The Sting is virtually anywhere a perfect movie. Plots within schemes, and the first time I saw it, I was completely blown away. You know, it's interesting. I heard a couple people on satellite this morning talking about The Sting, and one of them made a very valid, if a bit frightening point. A belief that for him, that movie harkens to a time where you could slow cook a story. And that individual's not wrong. But I also think it's kind of sad that it's almost viewed as, well, you can't do that now. In the phone era, you can't slow cook, because there's a lot of slow cooking in that film that he actually took as, well, it's kind of slow. And again, to each their own. That was a wonderfully crafted film, but it was slow cooked to build to something several times. That's the point of the slow cooking. You can't cook that kind of film fast, or you're not going to get the same satisfaction when it reaches the right temperature. Are you a Redford?
Low and slow.
Low and slow.
That's how you cook it.
There
you're smoking a brisket.
Are you a Redford guy? I mean, do you have any favorite?
Well, The President's Men is my favorite,
Yeah.
probably for the same reasons as you, because most of his heyday was a little bit before my time.
True.
But I am kind of like Craig Kilborn, I think. I like to think I'm kindred spirits with Craigers,
Yes.
in that I'm fascinated by the movie star and the old Hollywood and just the vibe of it. And even though, as you said in the first segment, he might not have had this long list of different types of characters and all these different things, although he could play like a bad guy, too.
He could. And
it was
some of his films.
The Demi Moore, Indecent Proposal,
Yes,
right?
correct. Yes.
I mean, that's not a good dude.
Polished bad guy.
Yeah.
Very polished bad guy.
Exactly. So it was still a little bit of Redford in there, too.
Yes.
But just the overall just vibe of a movie star, I know we have it now, but it also, I feel like, felt different back then.
No question.
So that's kind of what I would owe today, and what I would miss today is that people just have this aura about them.
Yes.
Of his vintage and the vintage before that I do think harkens back to, this epic time. I mean, just think about, him and Paul Newman and all the stuff they did. I mean, that's as good a duo as you're going to get, right? There's
Correct.
Pacino and De Niro, and Clooney with whoever, whether it's Damon or Brad Pitt, like, Leonardo DiCaprio, he'll have his people that he works with, but those two are right up there with everybody, and I'm guessing inspired a lot of the guys that my generation had.
Well, and they didn't work together again. There was a lot of talk that they wanted to, and they talked about it and should have, and they probably, but then again, you say no, not unless it's the perfect story, because you don't want to, as it is, when you have that only that one kind of major collaboration, then it lives forever, right? Because it's almost perfection, the way they played off each other in that film. And even the backstory about how he ended up, Redford being a part of that movie, is interesting, which we may try to get into earlier. I'll give you a couple other names of films, because we're going to try to include a bunch of them here before the show is done. The Way We Were, that was the Streisand film in 1973, which for me, wasn't one of my favorite ones. I think the critic kind of panned it a little too soft, a little too sugary, but a huge film at the time, also directed by Sidney Pollack, who directed him a bunch of times and probably knew him as well as anybody. The most underrated film, I think, that he appeared in as an actor is a film called 3 Days of the Condor, which you could argue that was made in 1975, and you can argue, so that's 50 years ago. But some of the issues it raises feel as fresh today as it did then. And he ends up, he finds himself, he goes basically out to lunch. And when he returns to his office, he basically finds everybody else who's worked there has been wiped out. And he's going, what the hell's going on here? What did we happen upon? This is a government office, I should say, CIA related. And it opens up an incredible can of worms. The story is very well done. Faye Dunaway is huge in this film as well. She unwittingly ends up being a co-conspirator with him as well. That for me is always going to be among the most underrated. And I had a lot of people mentioning Condor. And we'll get to several other ones that are maybe underrated and what some of us liked about his best films as well, or his biggest motion pictures.
One of the cool things I saw today, I think Condor was one of those. Mm-hmm. Somebody put together a compilation and they said there may not have been a better actor at talking on the phone than Redford.
Yes.
Whether it was that where he says, they're all dead, everybody's gone, can you hear me? And I'm paraphrasing. Or all the conversations he had in All the President's Men. We always think about Newhart, creating that.
That's true.
As a comedy bit, but something as simple as that, like there's
a skill to that.
There's probably nobody on the other line.
Yeah.
Like he's probably got beats that he's got to hit or whatever, but him on the phone was pretty damn good.
He was also a very good narrator. He narrated some stuff. I don't think I ever saw A River Runs Through It all the way through. And he directed and narrated that film as well. And there's a good backstory about how he convinced the author of that book, of that story, to allow him to try to turn it into film. There are a lot of people said it can't be done, and he managed to pull the thing off. The Candidate is another vastly underrated film that you can argue from a political standpoint maybe kind of predicts where we might be today. It certainly opens several cans of worms as well. Is the Vikings report coming up next?
No.
That's later, 4:30. When we come back, even better than the Vikings report, Jonny Athletic, maybe he's got a favorite Redford film as well. He will join when we...
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. The rush of racing? Nothing beats it. But Chumba Casino comes close. Chumba's got fast spins, fun games, daily bonuses, and all the action you can handle. Now that's a ride. Ready to hit the throttle? Get in the driver's seat and head to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Rob Gronkowski from Dudes on Dudes. Anyone else feeling hungry? Because Applebee's just cooked up the ultimate option play with their new Ultimate Trio deal. You can choose from 3 of their delicious appetizers and pair them up with 3 sauces for just $14.99. Craft your perfect trio from over 80,000 different combinations in this flavor-packed plate built for one, or to share if you're generous. You can stick with the classic pairings like boneless wings and buffalo sauce, mozzarella sticks and marinara, or brew pub pretzels and white cheddar beer cheese. Or you can spice things up and try some unexpected combinations like dipping chicken wonton tacos in their honey Dijon mustard. The choice is yours. The Ultimate Trio is the perfect way to hit all your cravings in one plate and turn appetizers into an entree. It's time to head to your neighborhood Applebee's or order online today. Now that's eating good in the neighborhood.
Life moves fast. A new home, a new baby, a new chapter. But without an estate plan, your future's still vulnerable. With Trust and Will, you can name guardians, start a trust, create healthcare directives, and more. All online in about an hour. It's attorney-designed, state-specific, and built to protect what you love. Plans start at just $199, and every plan is safe, secure, and kept completely private. From families with young kids to adults caring for aging parents, Trust and Will makes it simple to take control. without a law office, paperwork stress, or court delays. Go to trustandwill.com and use code RADIO to save 20%. Start your plan today. Don't wait for life to force your hand. Estate planning is one of the smartest, most loving things you can do. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Whether you're watching college football or flipping between games on Sunday, sound quality matters. A Sonos home theater setup, especially the Arc Ultra soundbar, delivers immersive surround sound and deep bass that makes every play, every hit, and every cheer feel larger than life. And when you're on the go, the Sonos Ace headphones are a game changer. Lightweight, crystal clear, and with up to 30 hours of battery life, they're built for everything, from podcasts to post-game analysis. Visit Sonos.com to explore the full lineup.
It's time for Jonny Athletic. Jonny Athletic. Jonny Athletic. And he's on the Dan Barreiro right now.
It is Johnny time. He joins us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. And we'll remind folks, if you have questions for John Athletic, hit the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line at 64686. That's 64686. I think you've already revealed via X your favorite Redford film. And, of course, the problem for any of us who are in the Inkstand Wretch business in picking the film we did is we're immediately going to be summarily dismissed that we're rooting for that film for all of the wrong reasons, but you nevertheless are steadfast in believing that for you it's All the President's Men?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Dan. It might be a little bit cliche of me, but I'm not going to apologize for it. Put that thing into my veins and have it give me a little bit of purpose when you're in this kind of crazy business that we're in. I've watched it 100 times, probably, or, there'll be times I come home from a game and I'm, just finishing up a story, or I'll put that on for a little bit in the background. I love everything about it from start to finish. And, I'm typically not a guy that is going to go all the way back and say, oh, you got to get to the classics. And that's when cinema was cinema. But that to me is unassailable. Just number one with a bullet on my list.
And I think the underrated aspect of that film, and the reason why it was so popular, not just with folks who had connections to the newspaper business or belief in the newspaper business, is it was a hell of a detective story. The way they laid it out, it was, in fact, that's what Redford has called it in the past. It was, I think that's part of what, he obviously had higher aspirations for what he thought the movie represented, but it was that it's you don't have to care anything about the journalism of it. It's just a damn good detective yarn as they try to piece together what the hell happened in the break-in, or obviously, more importantly, the cover-up of the break-in, and that made it very successful. Garcia, he might have a better memory of this than me, but we had somebody, it was either Feinstein or David Marinus, I think, one or the other. When Ben Bradley died, we had Marinus on, as I recall, and then we later had Feinstein on a number of subjects, including Ben Bradley's stories. And one of them said to us that the irony of that whole sequence was that after the film came out, people at the Post started noticing that the real Ben Bradley started acquiring the mannerisms of the Hollywood Ben Bradley, as played by, who's the name of the actor? It'll come to me in a minute.
Robards.
Yeah, Jason Robards. That he actually started, doing some of the things that Robards did, trying to be Ben Bradley, which just cracked me up.
Amazing. And I think that Robards performance is one of the best.
Yes.
Efficient. He was only on screen a few minutes, but man, he chewed everyone up. And you've heard stories about the set and how even on days when, Robards only in the film for a little bit,
right?
But he would come to the set, sit in the Washington Post newsroom that they rebuilt, out in Hollywood, and just be there with, his feet on the desk, to have a presence as they were filming other scenes that didn't involve him. That's how much he was into it.
Yeah.
When I hear stories like that, man, I'm just all the way in on the whole thing. I think the Bernstein character maybe kind of got out over his skis a little bit, but otherwise I think fairly historically accurate. portrayal of what went down. And so, yeah, it's such a great film, and it's great performances. I just love everything about it.
We're going to, later in the show, we're going to play a soundbite from a Redford appearance at the Press Club many, many years ago. I want to say this goes back to maybe late 90s, early 2000s, in which he talks about the difficulty he had getting that film made, and that a lot of the mistrust came from within the Post, from within the Washington Post, and it was something that they had to sort of fight along the way to get it done. I think he said it took them 3 years to just get to a point where they could even start getting the thing made, which I thought was also very interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those guys. And look, there's other outstanding films, right, that he's associated with. It doesn't just have to be newspaper stuff. But that movie, again, had meaning, and yet on the most basic entertainment level was very effective there as well. And I'm trying to find here as I'm talking to you, I had never heard this before, but I'm looking at the Variety.com, their obit on him. And I completely missed this story. If indeed, I assume it's true. They wouldn't print it if it wasn't, right?
No, definitely not.
After the war, in his he was born in Santa Monica, California, 1936. After the war, in his early teens, Redford turned his focus to sports and the arts. A distrust of the establishment emerged early on when he received a sports medal during a national holiday called Boys Week at age 13. From then Senator Richard Nixon. He shook my hand and gave me the award, and the vibe that went through me was so extreme. I said, what in the hell? Who is this guy? So I'd never heard that story before, that it's just so amazing that then that many decades later he ends up writing, or I should say, developing and creating this movie based on the book that obviously chronicles the end of the Nixon administration as president of the United States.
So, I mean, Redford was born to play that role.
Apparently so,
and,
yeah.
I mean, he is as natural a reporter as dashing as he is, and all of the things. I mean, there's not many Redford level guys that we run into in the press box or around here, but like he plays the role. He gets a little disheveled. He's a bulldog and gets after it. I mean, he just looks and feels like a reporter investigator. And it's a phenomenal performance and portrayal. And I mean, just a credit to him as an actor for being able to kind of really disappear into that role the way that he is for all of the things that he has working for him.
All right, let's talk a little Vikings early. The news breaking yesterday that J.J. McCarthy is out probably 2 to 4 weeks with what's described as a high ankle sprain. There were immediately conspiracy theories that this was a shadow benching, that he's not that hurt, but on the basis of the way he'd played through 7 of the 8 quarters, especially the 4 quarters here, that the Vikings deep down wanted to sit him down for a little while, maybe settle him down just a bit. I find that conspiracy theory preposterous, but I will say I don't think it's impossible to believe that they might not mind the timing on the basis of how bad it was. Now, you can say, no, he's got to get back on the bike right away. But the other way to look at that is, no, he's got to get back on the bike when he's ready to get back on the bike. And maybe we learn some things about how far he might have to go. So where are you on this whole issue? Because I think, I'm not saying they're relieved he got hurt, but I'm saying maybe they look at it as, all right, now he's got a time to breathe. As a head coach, as a quarterback whisperer, I got a little time to maybe settle him down in some areas and work through some things while he recovers. What do you make of the whole deal?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that was just a little bit curious to me was the timing of the announcement. Generally speaking, Dan, in these like ankle situations, even a high ankle sprain, a lot of times the coach will play dumb for 3 days, 4 days, and just drag it out. And, during the week a little bit for competitive reasons, for all sorts of other chicanery, and even to see, hey, can you push yourself to get through this and get ready? Now, maybe it is just severe enough, and, maybe he will be out a little bit longer, that they just say, hey, let's get Carson Wentz ready. Let's just get everyone committed and used to the fact that we're going to have a different quarterback. But ultimately, what I think is there's not anything nefarious with it, but I do think there is a recognition that he has struggled for 7 of the 8 quarters, and that to put him out there behind a leaky offensive line when you are physically compromised at all would be a disservice. Like, there might be some players, the Brett Favres and the Holmes or whatever, who have been doing it forever and are established and have a foothold on the offense that can limp out there and go make something happen. But J.J. McCarthy, where he's at in his development with his command or lack thereof right now, because he is so young, it would probably be a disservice to him to try and say, hey, let's get you ready. Let's get you out there, even, if you're not close to 100%. And so that to me is the recognition of it is not going well so far, and it would really not be going well if his mobility was limited. So let's give him some time. Let's take some of the pressure away. And if he gets a little benefit of just calming his mind through this next week or 2 or 3, all the better for it.
Let's remind folks that I think just within the last hour, the Vikings have added another quarterback. Not surprising that they were going to add one to the list. Desmond Ridder, I think most recently was with Atlanta, and he will give them a third healthy quarterback in the wake of the J.J. McCarthy sprained ankle news. Gessling tells us that Ridder was in training camp with the Bengals, who, of course, they're adding quarterbacks because they lost their starter as well for a more extended period of time. He played in 3 preseason games with Cincinnati. As you look back on Game 2, the Sunday night opener, how unsettling was it from your perspective, especially offensively?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was dispiriting, I would say. And there's no question that J.J. McCarthy missed some throws and was not good in the game. Absolutely. But I think that the more concerning thing, Dan, for me at least, is that they also couldn't get anything going in the running game. They're on their third left tackle. Their center, who knows if he's going to be ready given his history of concussions. I think that they have more problems and more issues to deal with than just our quarterback is young and not quite ready for this or a little overwhelmed in the moment. And I think that the idea coming into this season was we can go with a young quarterback because everything else around him, coaching, offensive line, weapons, that's all taken care of. We're in good shape, running game, all of that. But so far, we haven't seen anything remotely close to something that they can hang their hats on because of the injuries, because of other things that are going on that could say that maybe it's more than just J.J. McCarthy. Maybe it's more than the quarterback. And that tells me there's a lot more work to be done yet.
Yeah, there's a great deal. Absolutely true. So what is fair to expect from Carson Wentz at this point? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, look, Josh Dobbs came off the bench, after 3 days and was able to engineer one win at least. So I do think that Wentz still has a lot of physical ability. I do think that he's been in the system for a few weeks now at least. So there's probably a little bit of familiarity with him. I think it is reasonable to expect that as a guy who has a ton of NFL snaps under his belt, he may just be a little calmer influence on the offense right now. That's possible. And I think if you're looking for some kind of optimism as a Vikings fan, maybe you do look to a Baker Mayfield with the Rams or something like that, where, a guy who's been kicked around a little bit, been through the ringer, and maybe is a little humbled, and also has a sense of urgency, is going to come in and try and take this thing as far as he can and really prove to everyone that he can still play in this league, which there are very much doubts about. But I think physically he's good. It's just mentally, is he going to have command enough of this offense to operate it and do it at a high level? And that I really don't know about that so far. But I think he can be ready to run a decent offense against a defense that isn't very good on Sunday.
Let me ask you a broader question, getting back to the team and offensively and McCarthy, because we had Ben Lieber on yesterday, and Lieber said, look, the fact is, and the head coach kind of talked about this too, that this is we always knew this was going to be a process. And the way I took that to mean is, man, he wasn't going to be able to walk in here and dominate. That's just not very realistic. And I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that. But the disconnect potentially seemed to be, all right, if that's really what you believe, that there is no such thing as jump-starting even a young, talented quarterback's career where there aren't going to be some significant highs and lows at least his first year or at least his first, 8 to 10 weeks, then you're kind of back to why do you play it as aggressively as you did in the offseason? Because you can argue all of those moves demanded bringing Aaron Rodgers in and rolling the dice on him, or finding a way to bring Sam Darnold back, or maybe even bringing Danny Dimes back in one form or another. That it's still, and I think part of the reason people are going to be impatient, we talked about this, you and I, several weeks ago, that I think the expectations on this kid were going to be higher, whether it was fair to him or not, because of all what was built around him. So are we stuck with the possibility that this whole concept for this season, to a large extent, might end up being a contradiction in terms?
I mean, it's certainly possible, Dan. You can look throughout history at rookie quarterbacks, and you can find any example you want to fit whatever you want to, whatever kind of story you tell. Troy Aikman really struggled as a rookie. Peyton Manning threw 100 interceptions as a rookie, and they both turned into Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Then you can look at a guy like Jaden Daniels, who played, had a rough or a quiet first couple of weeks in Washington, but then took an under-talented team to 12-5 and got to the playoffs and won there. So there's all sorts of different ways to look at it. What has jumped out to me so far in this very tiny little sample size of J.J. McCarthy and in this offense is, I think actually, Dan, that Kevin O'Connell has not yet found a comfort zone with what he should be calling, with how to help McCarthy the most and to play to McCarthy's strengths. You're seeing kind of these calls where he's doing these fake pitches, he's doing kind of some kind of trickerations and things, and McCarthy's just dropping the ball and stuff like that. And you're also seeing on 3rd and short, 4th and short, they can't do anything. And so I don't feel like O'Connell has found a real rhythm with this offense yet, with this personnel yet, and that's going to be a challenge for him as well. And it would have been with a backup quarterback or a young quarterback like McCarthy. But I said at the State Fair, I remember, I thought it was a 10-win team because I thought that they would stub their toes some while McCarthy got hurt, but eventually McCarthy learned, but eventually their talent would start to coalesce and take over, and then they would pick up steam as the season went on. I didn't expect it to be this ugly right away, but I still think that there was time for McCarthy to feel things out, for O'Connell to find the right mix to get this thing going. It's been a rough 2 weeks. That's all I can say about it.
Here's the irony of it. I mean, let's face it, the most of the best seasons in Vikings history, certainly over the last 30, 35 years, have involved one guy starting the season as the beloved starter and that player getting hurt and somebody else coming in and saving the day, right? You cannot rule that out in the case of Carson Wentz. I'm not predicting it because he's been with a lot of teams and he's kind of the essence of a journeyman at this point, but we've seen this play. This is really the main play we've seen when it involves Viking success.
This should be a very familiar position for Vikings fans. They have seen this before. Wade Wilson, Randall Cunningham, Case Keenum, and at every turn of those levers, as soon as the starting quarterback went down, it was, they're done. What are they going to do with this journeyman backup who has bounced around and is on his last legs? Well, they're going to go to the NFC title game. Turns out what's going to happen. Yes. So, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Carson Wentz comes in and finds some magic, finds some Sam Darnold magic, and plays well, and they win games. The question will be this time that is different, Dan, is that right now J.J. McCarthy is the franchise quarterback.
Right.
They drafted him 10th overall. The plan is for him to be the guy for the next 5-10 years, whatever it is. So if Wentz plays out of his mind, what does that mean for McCarthy, and how do they handle that? This is all way cart before the horse, but this is where the circumstances are different than when Brad Johnson goes out or Sam Bradford goes out. Or in those situations, Tommy Kramer, those situations, it's just an entirely different dynamic that way that complicates looking at the bigger picture as this goes forward.
So the Wolves sign Bones Highland, is that correct? Why did we do this? Just for more depth?
Yeah, just more depth. They looked at Brogdon, they looked at some veteran guys, but Bones was in this offense last year. He made a good impression, and they want to have a situation where no one's standing in Rob Dillingham's way. They want him to be able to play. They want him to get minutes. And so Bones was an affordable option who can help them if need be in case of emergency, but probably isn't going to be just banging on the door to get in. He understands the dynamics of it, and it's going to be, Dillingham needs to play. He needs to get out there. They need to figure it out one way or the other, and that's one way to do that is go with Bones over someone more established like a Malcolm Brogdon.
We probably need more time to really dig into this, but what are your early impressions about the potential staying power on the Kawhi Leonard would-be scandal? Is this real? Does your gut tell you there's going to be enough plausible deniability here that the owner's going to skate or the franchise is going to skate? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the key is going to be, Dan, that there's language in the collective bargaining agreement that essentially says, I'm paraphrasing, that you don't need a smoking gun, that you just need sort of the appearance of a smoking gun.
Okay.
And so there is the appearance already. Like there's enough coincidences on coincidences on coincidences to line up to say something, even if we can't absolutely prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt, there is enough to at least punish them in some way. I don't think at this point it's going to be death penalty, Kawhi Leonard's contract voided, Joe Smith style, but I could see something like, hey, here's a couple first-round picks we're taking away. Here's a hefty-duty fine. Here's a few other things because, man, it's just every other day Pablo Torre has something that is just very, very on the nose that has the Clippers backed up against a wall. And I think it's too much for Silver to ignore, but probably not quite enough to just completely drop the hammer on him.
This came in a while ago. I saved it just for you. I'm ready for the Brosmer era. Where is Ron Rivera? JJ wears too much mascara. Wolves in 5.
Oh, man, that is poetic stuff from the KFAN listeners. I love it. I want to leave you, Dan, with just a little where we started.
Yes.
There was a story I heard today on Redford, and I can't remember the exact details, but he was playing a part, and basically the director was saying, to them or the people around were saying, do you know that kind of situation where you get in where, you're talking to this woman and she just isn't picking up what you're putting down and it just isn't working. That chemistry isn't clicking. That's where you're at here. And Redford looks at him and says, I don't understand the question.
Oh, that's brilliant. I had not heard that one. That's a good story.
Yeah. It was fantastic. And I was like, there he is, the swordsman Redford. We love him.
There's no question about that. Great stuff as always, Johnny. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
John Krasinski. John Athletic is what we call him, with a lot of good Vikings material and a couple of Redford observations as well. Don't forget, we will be joined by Paul Bloom. Rather sobering day in the city of Minneapolis, or night, overnight as well. We've got a couple of shootings to discuss. Those are stories that he is covering for Fox 9. He will be at 4:15 today. We expect Kevin Seifert, Tuesday regular, sometime in the 5 o'clock hour. I got a little A-section update that I think we need to spend some time on, and we'll continue to ode Redford throughout the show today.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Applebee's just cooked up the ultimate option play with their new Ultimate Trio deal. You can choose from 3 of their delicious appetizers and pair them up with 3 sauces for just $14.99. Craft your perfect trio from over 80,000 different combinations in this flavor-packed plate built for one, or to share if you're generous. You could stick with the classic pairings like boneless wings and buffalo sauce, or you could spice things up and try some unexpected combinations like dipping chicken wonton tacos in their honey Dijon mustard. It's time to head to your neighborhood Applebee's or order online today. That's eating good in the neighborhood. This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Football is back. That means it's tailgate time, and this season, the only meat I'm going to grill is Dietz and Watson. I'm loving the Black Angus Dietz dogs. They're flavor-packed, and you can tell they are made with the highest quality ingredients. Sundays just got a whole lot better. Visit DietzandWatson.com/therightway to learn more about the Dietz difference.
Whether you're watching college football or flipping between games on Sunday, sound quality matters. A Sonos home theater setup, especially the Arc Ultra soundbar, delivers immersive surround sound and deep bass that makes every play, every hit, and every cheer feel larger than life. And when you're on the go, the Sonos Ace headphones are a game changer. Lightweight, crystal clear, and with up to 30 hours of battery life, they're built for everything, from podcasts to post-game analysis. Visit Sonos.com to explore the full lineup.